OMG. Soo-kai treats Tan Songyun so gently netizens are losing it. What truly happened next became the moment that no fan was prepared for, the moment that shifted the conversation from simple admiration to full-blown astonishment, because while the internet had already been flooded with clips of Soo-kai gently guiding Tan Songyun through the airport, positioning himself between her and the overwhelming chaos of flashing cameras and shouting fans, what unfolded after those initial scenes revealed a level of tenderness that could not be explained away as mere politeness, professionalism, or friendly concern. It became clear to anyone paying attention that his actions were not simply those of a colleague escorting someone through a crowd, but something far deeper, more instinctive, something shaped not by obligation but by a sincerity that cut through the noise of celebrity headlines and reached straight into the core of why fans were losing their minds. Hold on tight, C-drama family. The world of your favorite celebrities is unfolding before your eyes, and every moment is more breathtaking than the last. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now, because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. As they exited the terminal and moved toward a waiting car shielded by layers of security, Soo-kai's demeanor shifted into a quiet alertness that almost resembled protectiveness, the kind that only appears when someone's concern for another is genuine. He slowed his steps whenever she adjusted her bag, angled his body to shield her from the wind and flashing lights, and lowered his voice when speaking to her, as though every word was chosen not for show but for her comfort alone. The cameras outside caught only fragments of these moments, but those fragments were enough to ignite an online frenzy. Yet the real story, the one that fans did not witness, began only after the car door closed, shutting out the noise, the speculation, and the endless demands of fame. Inside the car, the world seemed to exhale, and for a brief moment, the two of them were suspended in a cocoon of quiet, away from the pressure, the scrutiny, and the millions of eyes waiting to dissect every breath. Tan Songyun leaned back, visibly overwhelmed by the intensity of the scene she had just walked through, while Soo-kai remained turned slightly toward her, observing her expression with a level of attention that surprised even her. She attempted to downplay her exhaustion with a small laugh, insisting she was fine, but Soo-kai continued watching her with a seriousness that suggested he had long since learned to read beneath the surface of her reassurances. The car began moving, gliding through the city lights, each passing building creating ripples of reflection across the window, and it was in that quiet transition that he finally broke the silence. His voice was low, steady, carrying that familiar mix of concern and calm composure that fans have come to recognize in his interviews, but here it held something more personal, something closer, something he only ever allowed her to hear. He told her that the crowd had been far more chaotic than expected, that he could see how overwhelmed she had been despite her efforts to remain composed, and that she should have called him earlier so he could have accompanied her from the start rather than arriving halfway through the commotion. She turned to him then, her expression softening, the embarrassment she had been trying to hide flickering briefly in her eyes. She admitted that she hadn't wanted to trouble him, that she knew he had work, that the last thing she wanted was to create headlines involving the two of them when rumors were already spreading faster than either of them could control. But as soon as she said the words, Soo-kai let out a quiet breath that carried the weight of everything he hadn't said publicly, a breath that revealed precisely why fans were reacting so intensely to him. He told her that she would never be a trouble, not now, not before, and not ever. The car fell into another silence after that, not heavy, but charged, filled with an unspoken sentiment that neither dared articulate fully, yet both understood in its entirety. Outside, the city continued racing past, unaware that inside this one car, two lives that had intersected through scripts and schedules were now tangled in a story far richer than anyone had predicted. And while fan speculation had always been wild, the reality unfolding between them carried a subtlety that no rumor mill could fabricate. When they reached her hotel, the situation shifted once again. Security had already cleared a private path for her, but Soo-kai insisted on walking her inside himself, despite knowing full well that someone might catch a glimpse and turn it into a headline by morning. As they entered the quiet lobby, she tried to protest, insisting he could leave, but he brushed off her words with the same calm determination he had shown all night. There was something undeniably grounding in his presence, something warm and steady, and she realized that no amount of polite refusal would change his mind. Once they reached her door, the emotional weight of the day settled on both of them at once. She turned to thank him, offering a small smile meant to lighten the atmosphere, but the seriousness in his gaze held her in place. He reminded her to rest, to eat, to message him if anything felt overwhelming. His tone was gentle yet firm, the kind of tone one uses not out of obligation but out of deep-rooted care. She nodded, her eyes softening in a way that she rarely allowed the public to see, and as she whispered her goodnight, Sukai hesitated for a brief moment, as if weighing whether to say something more. But then, slowly, he stepped back, his expression lingering in that delicate balance between affection and restraint, and allowed her to disappear behind the door. The moment the door clicked shut, the entire internet erupted. Clips, photos, eyewitness accounts, and endless speculation swirled into a storm of trending hashtags, each one debating the nature of their relationship. Some insisted it was romance, others claimed it was friendship, but the truth was that none of them had seen the quiet sincerity inside the car, the unguarded conversation, the way he stood beside her with a steadiness that felt like its own kind of confession. And as Sukai made his way back through the dimly lit hallway, his expression contemplative, one thing became unmistakably clear. Whatever the world thought they saw at the airport was only the beginning. What happened after that moment, the moment when Sukai reached instinctively toward Tan Songyun with a gentleness so natural it seemed rehearsed by fate itself, became the catalyst for the storm that would dominate social platforms for the next 48 hours, because once the initial shock wore off, once the first fan-captured clip circulated past 1 million views, the entire conversation shifted from curiosity to obsession. People wanted to know what happened next, what took place after the cameras stopped rolling, after the crowd thinned out, after the staff tried to usher them quietly toward the service exit. And the truth, as revealed by those who were close enough to witness it firsthand, is that the real story didn't unfold in front of the fans at all. It unfolded in the dimly lit hallway behind the main terminal, where the sound of footsteps echoed softly, and where Sukai's demeanor transformed from public poise to something far more intimate and revealing. As soon as the two stepped into the quieter corridor, Tan Songyun lowered her gaze, clearly overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Her shoulders tensed, not out of discomfort with Sukai but from the weight of eyes, the sudden confrontation of emotion she had not prepared herself to handle. And it was in this moment, in this unguarded second, that Sukai reached out again, gently touching the side of her arm with a quiet reassurance that seemed almost instinctual. He didn't speak immediately, instead, he guided her away from the bustle, his touch steady, not forceful, not tentative, simply present, offering grounding in the middle of chaos. Witnesses described the way he leaned slightly toward her as they walked, as though subconsciously shielding her from the noise, the tension, the storm of speculation he knew would explode online the moment those videos went public. She finally lifted her head, her eyes meeting his, and something unspoken passed between them, something that didn't require words, something built on shared history, trust, and a familiarity that no co-star pairing could fake. This was not the stiff courtesy of a publicity moment. This was a connection that moved with an organic softness fans weren't used to seeing from them. She whispered something, her voice barely audible, and he nodded with the kind of focus that suggested he had been waiting for her to speak first, giving her space, giving her time, giving her the comfort of knowing she didn't have to stand alone. Their path eventually led them to the back exit near the private parking lot, where the world outside was darker, quieter, and shielded from intrusive cameras. The cool night air carried a stillness that contrasted sharply with the frenzy they had just left behind. Here, Sukai's demeanor softened even further. He opened the car door for her, not with exaggerated chivalry but with a calm attentiveness that felt deeply personal. The gesture wasn't grand, it wasn't dramatic. Yet it was this small, deliberate action that made the fans who saw the leaked footage gasp, because the way he looked at her during that moment, steady, warm, unguarded, revealed the kind of affection that escapes even the most disciplined actors. Before she stepped into the car, she paused. She looked at him again, this time with a level of vulnerability rarely captured by any camera. The streetlight overhead cast a muted golden glow across her face, softening the tension that had lingered since the airport hall. Sukai leaned slightly closer, not touching her this time, but offering reassurance through proximity alone. And it was in this small pause between movement and stillness, between silence and confession, that everything changed. Their eyes locked, and though no words were exchanged, the atmosphere thickened with meaning, with emotion, with history.